Yes. Okay. And yeah, and you could probably just go ahead and start it now and then. Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, thanks.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Berkeley, California to find out if voter ID laws suppress the black vote. Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad.
I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed.
I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy camera?
I know, right?
That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that. It's on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone has data?
Mm-hmm.
You can actually
Unlimited.
Unlimited data.
Mm-hmm. I use my phone as a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of black people?
They're pretty much ignorant. That's why my thought process on it.
I just think that's ignorant. Ignorant.
Ignorant. That's the word I'm hearing a lot.
Ignorant.
Ignorant.
Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you're putting people in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe a little bit of racist in it, but like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance.
You're judging somebody, you're judging them because they black, saying that they don't got it.
What people are they talking to? Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Are you
Love showing my ID.
You got no problem with that?
Nope.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a problem if there was a rule where you had to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Would you have an issue if there was a rule saying you got to show your ID before you vote?
Nah.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
That's a fascinating topic that you bring up, Johnny, because I'll tell you, the voter ID is a big, big topic today. And the
Well, the
card.
last time President Biden held a solo White House news conference was nearly a year ago.
Oh, hold on. Let me.
At that lecture.
Sorry about that.
No. Okay, sorry about that. I was just sending him back a response. But anyway, yeah, that's. Can you believe these liberals?
Well, see, the interesting thing is with the voter ID. I mean, that's a big topic, and it has to be acknowledged. One thing that also needs to be acknowledged, and this is very important, is here we say vacation package when we mean something entirely different, and we say 19 slices of carrot cake sometimes when we mean something entirely different. It's a little bit of fun for us, a little levity, a little joking around to try to get around a very serious topic. And it's getting to where we have to have these proofs that we have the vacation package in some places. And if we have to start carrying around proofs that we've taken the vacation, as it were, it's interesting, because if we don't have to have voter ID, but yet we all have to have this vacation package on board, unless, of course, we come from another place of residence, and our newcomer friends don't have to worry about that kind of thing. So it puts us in a rough spot as Americans as to how to think, what to believe, and we've got to really be honest with ourselves and realize that we are all starting to come down with this thing.
You know what's happening here? Well, what I understand. Okay, now back maybe in a third world country where we didn't have all this technology and all this access to information, that might have worked. Back in the dark ages, when you could tell somebody, you could strike a match and say, "I'm the god of fire."
Absolutely.
Maybe in those days that would have worked. But I have a feeling that these elites don't know what they're dealing with.
Well, there is an interesting time that we live in, and that is the animating contest of liberty. It's all about whether we want to be free as a human race versus whether we want to be slave to this whatever machine we set up, whether it be a corporate thing, whether it be artificially generated through algorithms and artificial intelligence, bots and machine learning and all kinds of neat stuff like that. It's all about freedom or enslavement. Do we want to be free, and do we want to go to the stars as a human race? And you see, there are lots and lots of projects going on this year and in the next year. And they all deal with just some crazy stuff. I'm talking planetary defense. I'm talking about asteroid deflection. I'm talking about so many crazy things. And it's simply because the human spirit has the ability to dream. We were created in the image of God, as it were. And so, well, not as it were, we were created in the image of God. So therefore, as it were, back in the old days, when we reached for that Tower of Babel, we're doing that again.
Yeah, and Harless, he did another one, which I don't know if I'm probably not gonna play it, but he asked people, how do you feel about socialism? And then he showed what socialism is. But all these Americans was great. We think socialism is great. It's better than capitalism. And then he showed Venezuela. And when you stand in line, the cartel controls who stands in that line to get what. And if you're not the chosen one, you're probably going to be starving for a few days. Probably like back in the caveman days where, you have to chase after your food, and maybe you didn't get any food for maybe a week, but you survived because your body was made for not eating for a few days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you miss a pizza, you miss a Burger King, and there's trouble.
Well, I
Oh,
will tell you, the human body is very, 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 very resilient, and it does know how to live on nothing.
right.
I remember living off the grid, living 30 below zero, and it was definitely an experience that we all should have,
Yes.
if nothing else, than to humble us and to make us free from our flesh and the cries of, oh gosh, we need a pizza or we need that Burger King when you're on a 70-acre plot and you have snow up to your waist. You're going nowhere. And
We are
when you
now, yeah, we're eating now like the King's meal. Almost every one of us here in America, we're eating like Kings ate back in the day. And I don't remember like reading in the Old Testament when this one king, he was so fat, and the guy came in to his mission was to assassinate the king, and so he stuck this knife into his stomach, and the king's fat covered over his hand. That's how fat this king was.
Do you know, that's strange. There was somebody that mentioned that just the other day, that very story. My gosh. Wow, it's weird how life is serendipitous like this. Ladies and gentlemen, you are joining us, tuned into intervisionfm.com. If you like what you see here and here, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, share the video, and do comment. That really helps with the algorithms that I was just talking about earlier. It is our bread and butter. Make sure to share that, though. If you do find this stuff interesting, we try to promote grassroots disabled musicians and otherwise financially challenged folks, and we've had quite a few folks on recently as interviews. Let's see, we've had Vampire Rodeo on in the past. We've had
Mike Johnson,
Johnson,
Dwayne Gold. Oh man, there's a few other ones I don't remember. Oh, and then Anthony Romo. Yes, that one. And Monday we're having this guy named Jordan. This guy is a fantastic singer, and from looking at his bio, he teaches. He learned how. Well, he had this disability where his spine was eating away itself, and so he was bedridden for some time. So he started learning instruments, and so that's how he makes a living. He teaches music, and he's producing music, and he's a 25-year-old young guy, and his name is Jordan, and we're gonna have him on Monday. So.
We also want to hear your story, so hit us up at info@intervisionfm.com.
Yeah.
And in the subject line, tell us a little bit about what you want to talk about and a little bio. Just less is actually more. We can go ahead and get in touch with you. Make sure to leave your contact info, and we'll make sure that we feature you on an upcoming episode. We have other things on deck tonight. It's quite a lot of fun, and we're going to have quite a few things going in the next few months, project wise. A lady that deals with light therapy and things like that. Perhaps we'll talk to her and have her on. I think I mentioned that before Christmas, so we'll get that lined up. Right. What do we got on topics here?
Let me get down to these one of these topics here. Let's see. How did I do that? Let's see. Come on. Okay, I gotta move over here. Come on. Wait a minute. I think I closed that. Let me open that back up. I don't know why. I closed
you find that. You can also find us on KINV Intervision. Hosts a number of folks. There's a gentleman that also has a podcast on Hebrew Nation. His name is oh boy, I lost it.
And I got mine. You lost yours and I got mine.
Yeah, lost. Okay. So his name, Hebrew Nation, what's that guy's name? Well, anyway, we got Alfonso the Clone. We've got
yeah, Robert. Yeah, Robert. And then Wayne Turner.
Other gentleman.
You mean Wayne Turner, who are working on getting his show up?
Oh, I forgot about Wayne Turner. Man, we had a lot of projects, folks. Anyway, you found what you were looking for there?
Yes, I did. Oh yeah. Now, okay, our topic is one of our topics is when did America change from right to extreme godless left? And you remember like back in 1962 when what is her name? The most hated lady in the history, Madeline Murray O'Hara, got reading the Bible out of the schools because they wanted her son to read the Bible, but her son is an atheist. She hated her father, who was very, very religious, and she was just full of hate. And it didn't end up very well for this lady, but that was the beginning of I think the erosion of morality here in America.
That's interesting that you bring this lady up, because on her deathbed, she did go ahead and renounce some of that stuff and did, well, basically claim salvation and was able to find, what we would consider to be salvation through the Lord Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really all it's about. Is the Lord Jesus Christ.
Her son too, because he switched, right? He switched. Not before he died, but he switched like later on in life when he was
right.
And then one son stayed that way because he was, the younger brother, I think. But the other one switched and he became a Christian.
So basically it works like this. America was founded on Judeo-Christian values and principles and that kind of thing. It's not to say that we all have to worship the same God or the same. That's the wonderful thing. We have free will and free choice. And that's part of the First Amendment, is freedom of religion. So we have the ability to actually choose not to partake in that. But those of us that founded the country, well, those of our founding forefathers that founded the country, were wise enough to say, now look, we do have a law, we do have a government, we do have to have all these things. And so therefore, we do have to have a standard. And that standard should be based upon the Judeo-Christian values that were popular at the time, per se. I mean, they've been popular for 2,000 years. It's only been, as you say, just fairly recently that the moral erosion has taken place. And it is interesting because this has been something that has been looked for and moved towards since, I would say, 1900, when education was pretty much centralized through the federal government and that kind of thing. You got the Board of Education, which came along fairly recently when Jimmy Carter took office, actually. And once that really took place, any vestige of biblical teaching and praying and any other stuff like that kind of went by the wayside in the schools. I remember praying in school, and it was one of my fondest memories. And I watched it go away, and I watched all these things go away, and I'm sad. And
tell me what you think about this. Okay, because I was kind of lining this up with my daughter, and tell me if I got the which came first or second right. So I figured, like, okay, President Johnson, 1964, gave the great American speech about how it was going to be this welfare, and if you don't need a husband, because the government will take care of you. So if you have a baby, we'll take care of it. Then came the pills for the pill, and then the IUDs and all that kind of stuff. So women can say, "Oh, I can be free now to have sex whenever I want," and it was free love.
Yeah.
Then came the abortion, which saying that you're not having children out of love. Now they are disposable because they might get in the way of your happiness. Is that pretty much it? Or can one of them be interchangeable and come first?
I think one's a
Absolutely,
content the other. I couldn't really say, but one has definitely got to be a perhaps an unintended consequence of the other. I mean, sure, we want to control our exploding population. Back in the 70s and 80s, the world had probably 4 billion people on it. And now apparently it has close to 8 billion people. I remember the movie Soylent Green when it first came out. It was a dystopian look as to what could happen if a large population were to seed and overtake the earth, and what would have to be used for food supply. And that Soylent Green ended up being people. It's one of my favorite scenes when I was a little kid. Soylent Green is people.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like, okay, so Johnson says, hey, go out and have babies and we'll pay for it, but just keep the man out of the house, right? Because if he's there, then he should be taking care of the baby. Which, hey, who can say nothing bad about that? But if you live in an area where there's no jobs, it's going to affect one side of the population more than the other side, because if you live in a jobless, desertless, they call it like a food desert type of location, and there's no jobs, and maybe you're not as motivated to jump on a bus and go across town, and you got to get the money to go across town to go downtown to get the job dishwashing or whatever, because you were too busy having fun and you dropped out of school or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of like things that go on. Then they said, well, and this is by, I think about this is done by guys. Guys said, how can we lower the woman's ability to say no? And so she says, I might get pregnant. What will my daddy say? And then the guy says, well, take the pill or go down to the birth control, get an IUD. You don't have to worry. Then sometimes she would forget. And then, but then now they have the one that would cover that. In 73, 74, they said, well, now you can kill the baby. So if you have you can kill the baby and you can still keep it a secret.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic that has to be talked about. And the end result is indeed an immoral type of
lifestyle.
I mean, you've got a nuclear family where you've got a unit, the father mother thing, attack that, destroy that, take the father out of the picture, tell the mother that she is a different type of person than what she is, meaning women are meant for creation, but women have that power. I shouldn't say meant for it, but they're meant for it. I mean, they have that power within them to create. They are the ones that have that. Men have the power to innovate, and not saying that women can't innovate. Women always innovate. Power behind the scenes, so to speak, has always been. And as a matter of fact, there are cultures where women lead. The Amazonian cultures, by example, as being most notable.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I don't even know.
No, but I'm just thinking like this is not something accidental. And right now, okay, right now, let's come to spin it forward. You got the liberals and the politicians living in gated communities, and they say, and they say, okay, children, we have gates around us, but we don't want gates around you, and we're going to let out the tigers and the bears and oh my, and let you fend for yourself, and we're going to sit back and we might even have surveillance cameras so we can observe you being thrown to the lions.
Well, that's why people, instead of observing and rightly so complaining about the state of the state, we all, it's time for us to get involved at the local, state, and federal levels.
Mm-hmm.
Hold ourselves accountable, and we need to also, if we can, hold our governing and accountable. And there are ways to get that done, built into the United States Constitution. There's a reason why those have been labeled with trigger warnings at the National Archives. It's a tactic going to be used in a way so that people will not want to learn about them. And as the older people, like our generation once knew about the Constitution, die off, in 10 or 20 years, our children will not even have the urge or the wish or the need to learn about our founding documents. Until that is done, however, we have an obligation as the people of the United States of America to do what we can to learn about and to preserve our history.
If you get a chance, people, you should read about the Roman Empire. I mean, there was a time, I mean, there was a time where entertainment was throwing people to the lions and you have a big stadium and watching those people be eaten by the lions. And I'm thinking, like, with the technology now, this is really, I haven't thought about that. With the technology now, what we can see, we have cameras in every block. What if the elites are just sitting back and just watching people get, like this Chinese lady in New York, some deranged guy they saw him outside of the station masturbating in public. He pushed her into the train and killed this 40-year-old China lady, black guy. Another black guy, McDonald's, stabbed this kid in the. But of course, it's white supremacy. But I don't think so. I think there's this crazy supremacy, and the crazies are being let out on those of us who don't have the money to build the wall and to live in the gated communities, like the elites who make the laws and just sit back and laugh and eat the ice cream like Nancy Pelosi with 32 flavors, if not more.
Well, there does need to be a lot of freezer space for that their ice cream. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, she's not the only one. She's just showing her refrigerator, but I bet all of them have 32 flavors and they live in this consensus place where they have movie theaters. Because if you live in a mansion, I heard some mansions that have the movie theaters, bowling alleys. I mean, they have all this entertainment there where they don't need to go out. They can just invite their friends over, and they have the security, and only one gets in there are the ones that are known. It's no Charles Manson family breaking up the party.
So if you're interested in hearing about what you, the average listener, can do about our illustrious federal government and how you can hold our federal government accountable, you can join us. Probably what I'll end up doing is pre-recording a Zoom call. And this will be sponsored by the Center for Government Accountability at accountabilityrevolution.com. And we'll just kind of talk a little bit about what the Constitution is, how it was meant to work, and how safeguards were put in place so that we, the people, could, if necessary, absolutely and only if necessary, alter our federal government if it becomes destructive to the ends that it was created for. It's basically a last resort failsafe where we are into the federal government. And when you have crime in the streets and it's rampant, and when you have borders that are not closed, and when you have the 19 slices of carrot cake and the vacation package that you have going on that doesn't work, and people are getting sick.
Yeah. And we have just a minute left in the show. I just want to remind people that don't forget the American citizens that Brendan left in Afghanistan, and the 13 people that he caused to get killed, our soldiers, and the many more that were injured, got their legs blown off, arms blown off, doing that blast in Afghanistan airport. So we don't want you to forget about that. And tonight at 8:00 is our show, and they were showing that show. And I was wondering why they kept showing this show, because I've been submitting a bunch of other shows, and I think someone, they probably won't say, but someone else says, yeah, we want to keep reminding people as well. Or maybe people are requesting that show a lot. I'm gonna ask them what's going on. But don't forget, we should never leave our people behind. And this doesn't care.
It's not our code and it's not our creed.
Right. So yeah. Anyway, we want to God bless, and then remember 5 o'clock next Monday will be. Give us the name of the show.
Well, basically, it'll be the Freedom Forum, and it's sponsored by the Center for Government Accountability. And once again, that's accountabilityrevolution.com, where your money is going when you donate to Cash App handle for Intervision, capital J. Or do you have that PayPal one still, or no?
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But yeah, we still have the PayPal. PayPal me/Intervision Denver.
That's paypal.me/Intervision Denver. And do hit us up with any subject matter that you would like to see featured. We do try to get folks featured musician-wise. info@intervisionfm.com.
All right. God bless everybody, and we'll see you Monday, God willing.